and gentlemen, to carry the G in MKE, Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV, and my regular partner, guest, co-host with the Mo-host, Camille Davis. Camille, welcome back from Vegas. Looked like you had a really good time out there.
I might have had too much fun. Came back a little sick under the weather, but Vegas was beautiful. And one of my friends who went on the trip with me, who's from New York, her first reaction was, "Why are there so many Packer fans here right now? I know they're not all going to this game." And I was like,
We
"Hey,
just kind of like, gravitate to wherever the Packers are.
exactly."
Like, not everybody does go to the game. That is true. But yes, they do tend to just migrate along with the team. It's kind of like back when the Grateful Dead were on tour and people, this was before your time, but like Grateful Dead fans would just kind of travel with the band even though they weren't always seeing every show.
Right.
Yeah, Packers fans are similar in that regard. And I'm sorry the Packers couldn't put on a better performance for you. I mean, what was it like? I got to imagine it was obviously a sullen evening afterwards, but I got to think like pregame was at least some fun.
Oh man, pregame was outstanding. Like there were people with all the Packer gear, and I had my Packer gear on. It's like you would see somebody, and it's like you're doing the heads up, the what's up, the like go Pack, go chants. The energy was outstanding for to be a road game. Like that was the first time I've experienced something like that, and it was super dope to see. And then the game happened.
It did. It really did.
And after the game, I must say Raiders fans were at our heads. Had quite a few people coming up to me after the game like, "Oh, you're still wearing that, huh? Like you still got that on?" And I had to explain to him again, like, "Hey,
you carry the G.
I carry the G. I'm from Milwaukee. Like I was a Bucks fan back in the dreadful days. Like this doesn't phase me. Like I'm always rep, no matter what's a winner or a loss or a tie. Like
that's right.
My team is my team."
I see, that's a healthy attitude. I like that. Yeah, the game did indeed happen, and it's interesting. Obviously, there's the moment where we have Preston Smith lined up over Devontae, and that has taken up so much oxygen on line. But I will say, for all the grief that Joe Barry gets, some of it deserved, some of it maybe a little over the top. For all the grief he gets, man, Matt LaFleur has to figure this thing out.
Truly.
Like it is at this point, it is on Matt LaFleur because not only did he decide to bring Joe Barry back, so whatever happens on that side of the ball, it's on Matt. But now his offense is not supporting that defense in any way, shape, or form. I mean, where do you start if you're Matt LaFleur? I mean, this was a game in Vegas where they had a bit of a mini bye, right, after the Thursday nighter against Detroit. Didn't seem to figure too much out coming into Vegas. So now they've had a full bye week. Hopefully, maybe, cross fingers, get Aaron Jones back. But if you're Matt LaFleur, where do you start trying to clean up this mess?
That's a good question. And I know a lot of people are resting like the Packers' future on Aaron Jones coming back. And I'm not doubting how outstanding he is. I know how dynamic he is. But if we don't figure out that offensive line and give him some room to navigate, when he's trying to run, it's still going to be somewhat of a problem. Like, the amount of times that we get into these press conferences and Matt LaFleur is like, we have to do better at this. And I'm like, well, that's on you to make them do better at running the ball more, at having a more balanced game. Like you're seeing the way defenses are starting to play this offense and they're daring Jordan Love to throw a lot of the time. So it's one of the things where it's like, is he going to take what the offense gives him? And if we're looking at this offensive line and, it's leaking a little bit more than what we're accustomed to, then maybe we stop, calling some of these longer developing passing plays and we try to do some more quick hits. I still would love to see the Packers offense attack the middle of the field a little bit more. And that's one way I would love to see Musgrave used. Like he's a seam guy, like just try to get in the ball in that space and make something out of it. So those are some things on offense. And of course, we want to see Aaron Jones healthy running the ball. But I got to say, A.J. Dillon wasn't terrible in that.
No, he had a better game.
He wasn't terrible. So like that was something, a positive to take away from it. So you hope the running game can get going. You hope that, Jordan Love, when he is making his reads, he takes what the defense is giving him. Don't need that home run ball every time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I understand what you're saying when it comes to, like, I think people are just so tired of, like, watching the Packers completely stub their toe over and over and over again in the first half that we're glomming on to the return of Aaron Jones because we know at least things will be somewhat more efficient. Like he doesn't need a big crease. He doesn't need these wide gaping holes, probably the way A.J. Dillon does. we've seen over the years, there are plenty of moments that you can point to where he hasn't had a lot to work with up front, but Aaron Jones either finds the crease, between the line, or he knows, okay, now it's time to jet and back, bounce it outside, pick up some yardage that way. He has this innate ability of, creating something where there's nothing, probably much more so than A.J. Dillon does. And I don't think it's a matter of needing like home run like hits every single time he's handed the ball. I don't think anybody should realistically be expecting that.
Right.
But I do think where it helps them probably instantly is just staying ahead of the sticks and getting them into 2nd and 3 rather than continuously being in like 2nd and 9 or 3rd and 10 and all these down and distances where Jordan really has struggled over the course of like these last 2 games because they continually find themselves in really disadvantageous passing situations. I mean, it's hard enough to live in the NFL as far as being a quarterback and trying to push the ball downfield and going through your progressions, etc. when it's normal down and distance, when the defense can't tee off. But when they can and they know you got to throw the ball, yeah, that's a tough way to live, especially if you're a first-time starter working with a ton of a lot, really young guys surrounding you. Probably don't know the offense as well as you do. Good luck with an offensive line that clearly can't hold up. That to me, that's what the return of Aaron Jones brings to the table, where even if it's not like every single carry, more often than not, you're going to get positive yardage. You're going to stay ahead of the sticks, and you're going to make life just that a little bit easier for a quarterback. Because, man, Jordan Love is coming off a rough game and a couple rough outings between the Detroit game and the Vegas game. There's no doubt there.
I mean, the first 2 games, Jordan Love was leading the NFL in passing touchdowns and quarterback rating. Like the accuracy still wasn't quite there, but we were winning and he was doing things where you're like, wow, okay. Like I see that. And then the last 3 games with Saints, even though we had the miraculous 4th quarter comeback, Lions and Raiders, like it hasn't looked that way. And in addition to the last 3 games, I mean, Jordan hasn't taken care of the ball as well as it has in the first 2 games.
Right.
And I don't think that's a coincidence that when he doesn't take care of the ball, like now we're 1-2 in those games where, we had a lot of turnovers there. So it goes to what you were saying before about also the Packers needing to get out a little bit quicker. Like it's something about this team where it's like this first half, just it's abysmal for this offense a lot of times. They don't get going until the second half. And when you're playing quality teams, you can't spot them 30 minutes in the game and then expect for it to be competitive.
Right. No, it's very true. And look, I love the idea of Musgrave up the seam or anywhere. I mean, this is the other thing where I think they've got to take a hard look at who they're dialing these plays up for. Like, if you've made the determination that, okay, we know A.J. Dillon is what he is, right? He's a between-the-tackles runner. He's going to get what's blocked, probably not much more. At this point in his career, that's who he is. Outside of that, who are you counting on and what are you dialing up player-wise, not play-wise? Like, so much of this seems to be like, oh, we're going to spread it out and we're going to try to get these combinations and try and work whatever system we're working rather than – okay, we're going to dial up plays for Jaden Reed. We're going to dial up plays for Musgrave. Because, look, I know they're young, but, man, the experience they should be getting is like, okay, you're the guy. You're number 1 in this progression. You got to go win, whatever route, whatever concept. And I do think Matt can help Jordan in that regard. Like, get some easier throws, especially early in the game. Get him a rhythm. Get him in a rhythm. Because I do think some of this is he's coming in and just sailing these things, and you saw that horrible throw to Reed to kind of basically throw away that first drive down the seam. Just get him some clean, delineated stuff, maybe in the flat, shallow crosser, something that gets him in a rhythm early. Because I do think he seems to be a bit of a rhythm passer, and once he's in that rhythm, he's pretty darn good.
I'd agree with that. And I mean, football in itself is so complimentary, right? Because like you're saying, if a defense knows what you're trying to do, it makes you that much easier to defend. So if we can get Jordan in rhythm, you can get the running game moving. And it doesn't even have to be, like you said, the home run plays there. Like if we can just make each down manageable, you don't want to get to 3rd down and it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. Like that's unsustainable to expect for positive results to come every single time when you're put in a disadvantaged situation. Like, of course, you hope they convert, but let's try to make this as easy as we possibly can. And when you go back to what Matt LaFleur can do, It's in the play calling. Like, let's get
Right.
some quicker developing passing routes out for him. And I mean, it's a young offense, and we know that. But we've also seen flashes from just about all of the young
Every single one of
receivers.
them. That's the other thing. And I do wonder if that's maybe paralyzing them a little bit as a coaching staff, because I understand we, as the kind of public sitting outside looking in, it's real easy for us to say, get Reed the ball, get Musgrave the ball, get Wicks the ball. Wicks is the thing this week
That's the
because
one. Yep.
some analytics nerd out there was like, he's getting a lot of separation. Well, now everyone's like, well, get Wicks the ball. It's like, well, that's real easy for us to say. It's a lot harder to do when you're not sustaining drives.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. That's another. You get back to the Aaron Jones thing. It's like if they could run a few more plays, especially early in these games, they could start spreading the ball around. They could start getting it to some of these guys with some regularity. The problem is they get one first down, maybe two if they're lucky, and then they're punting. It's like there's no efficiency on offense to afford opportunities to get to the ball to all these guys who are absolutely worthy of being targeted, absolutely got the promise and the athleticism and the explosiveness that you want to see with the ball in their hand, just not running enough plays. Got to run more plays.
That is
to
very
me, that's
true.
what it's about.
That is very true. And really quick before we move on to another thing with Aaron Jones coming back, like he's dynamic as a pass catcher as well.
Right.
So like you can use him in so many different ways. Like he's a true weapon on this offense. So in addition to the running game, we hope to see improve with him back in the roster or in the lineup. Like I would also hope that they can dial up some passing plays to get the ball to him quickly and see what he can do in space.
Look no further than the week one, right? I mean, unfortunately, it was the play he got hurt on when he ran into the end zone. But, I mean, he dusts a linebacker right there in space and takes it to the house. It's a great call. It's a great play by Jones in space, to your point. And that's a play where there's pressure coming for Jordan Love. They spread it out. They keep it empty. There's a guy basically coming to kill him, and he stands in there and hits this quick throw to Aaron Jones in space, and they're gone. Now, obviously, it's not always going to be that easy, but they got the right look there, and they took advantage of it. I think, especially with Jones back, to your point, get him involved in the passing game. Any way you can get touches, I think, is a boon for the offense and definitely for Jordan Love. Obviously, the worst part about losing, and there are many, many bad parts about losing, but the worst part about losing heading into a bye week is that you have all week to stew on it. Like you have all the things that went wrong, everything. You only have the last game to look at as far as the tape or the broadcast or whatever, and you're looking at it again and again and again and looking, oh, they should have done this, could have done that, and you're just waiting and waiting for them to play again. What do you do? I know how I handle it, which is not healthy, but how do you handle a bye week? What did you do to get away? Do you get away? What do you throw yourself into during a bye week break during Packers season?
Yeah, so normally during bye weeks, it's kind of I still try to keep up on. So if I'm following so I'm watching Cheesehead TV daily still. I'm keeping up on the Packers.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Hey, listen, again, I say this as a long-standing Bucs fan. Like I know I grew with my age, I am 34 years old. So I have only seen the Packers be very, very successful throughout most of my life.
Yep.
I acknowledge that, I understand how amazing that is, and I understand where we might be going.
Right.
But again, I'm not my fandom doesn't hinge on wins and losses. It is what it is. So during the bye week, it's just kind of I'm going to keep consuming the sports media that I consume. I'm going to think things through and say hey, I hope when we come out this bye that we don't pull a stinker against the Broncos because that would just be embarrassing. So I just kick back with family, play my video games, listen to music.
That's right. I do see your little video game highlights every once in a while on your social. You're really into it.
I love the NBA 2K.
The NBA thing. You're all over it. I love it. I mean, you're like me with Madden, except I don't post anything on it from Madden because I'm terrible. No, I'm okay. I can hold my own. But I will say the new Madden, it's tough. Jordan Love's rating is very different than Aaron Rodgers' rating, and trying to learn to play with a very different type of quarterback is very difficult online, I will tell you. And there's no shortage of dudes online who will let me know how much I suck. Where I'm used to having Aaron Rodgers. I'm used to being able to roll out and throw it all the way across the field, 60 yards downfield on a dime. It's that doesn't happen.
It's not happening.
That doesn't happen with Jordan Love. So, yeah, no, the bye week is always tough. It's always tough. But you mentioned the Denver game. Okay, so we are heading into this game against the Denver Broncos, who have, and this is no exaggeration, one of the worst defenses in modern NFL history. Like, that is not overstating the fact, right? And I know we kind of led into the Raiders game as far as Packers fans go online, talking about, oh, this Raiders defense is so bad, we should be able to walk up and down the field, score a bunch of points. And clearly that didn't happen.
Nope.
13 fucking points against a bad Raiders, talking bad Raiders defense. Well, now here comes a historically bad defense. And Camille, I'm just going to tell you this. Not only if they don't score a bunch of points against this defense, but if they lose this game, which is entirely possible, it's going to get ugly. It is going to get ugly around the Packers blogosphere, Packers nation. It's not going to be pretty.
And it shouldn't be,
right.
And that's the thing with it. That if they lose that game, then they will deserve all of the slander that come from it. I know there are some people, when their team's getting slandered or talked about, they amp themselves up and get ready to defend. And sometimes, sometimes slander is warranted. And to your point about how bad this Denver team is, with Sean Payton, who came in this offseason talking all that trash,
talking all that talk
about the previous regime and how it was the worst coaching job he's ever seen, and so on and so forth. And then this team comes out and plays like this.
Right.
We can't be that team where it's oh yeah, they beat us. No.
We cannot be the get right game for Sub McCarthy. You know what I'm saying? I can't handle that in my life. There's no way. But here's the thing. Would you be surprised if it happens?
Any given Sunday is a real thing, right?
Very much so.
So,
and what have the Packers shown us to give us any confidence? That's the other thing. That's not slander.
It's what they've put on tape for.
That's what they've done. Exactly.
Yeah, we can only react to what they have done at this point. And again, coming into the season, I knew it would be ups and downs, and I knew it wouldn't be this team that's going to have a really strong shot at the playoffs. I was thinking going into the season, the Lions should win this division. Maybe because the rest of the North is going to be equally bad, and the NFC in itself, I was I'm not really sure outside of who I see winning divisions, who's going to take those wild card spots. Maybe the Packers can play themselves into being in contention for a wild card spot. But it's the way things are looking so far. It's I don't know what to expect on a week to week basis from this team. Are we going to see the team, that came out and smacked the Bears, or are we going to see the team that came out and got smacked by the Lions? And it's one of those things too, where you're looking at that Bears game, the further and further away from what we get, and you're is this more of is this saying more about
indictment on the Bears rather than what the Packers are?
Exactly.
Yeah. There's every possibility, right? But to your point, you've seen flashes. We've seen hints of it even since that game, especially in Atlanta, but I guess especially against the Saints in the fourth quarter. We've seen moments where, okay, this is the promise. This is what we're kind of striving for, pushing for, hoping for to see going forward. And I will say, for all my doom and gloom, it is still just mid-October, right? What a team is in mid-October doesn't mean anything. What matters is what you're doing November, December, pushing into January. That's very much going to be what this team is remembered for. They've got to improve. They've got to become more efficient, consistent, all of that. And hopefully it starts coming out of the bye week because, there's zero doubt that this team is still filled with promise.
Absolutely.
There's still a high ceiling. And I'm not talking deep playoff run or anything like that. I'm not expecting that. But there's certainly a lot more talent on this team than what they've showed, to my eyes. A lot of disappointment so far, especially recently. But, man, it doesn't mean anything going forward. The past is not necessarily prologue for the 2023 Green Bay Packers. They just have to be more consistent, especially on offense.
Yeah, consistent and more disciplined as well. Those are the two pieces where it's if we can start seeing the consistency and the discipline coming in, let's stop being one of the most penalized teams in the league. Let's start,
right? Yeah, stop shooting yourself in the foot. You got enough trouble.
Exactly.
Beating the defense, let alone beating yourself.
Let's not stack the cards against us on our own faults. Let's
right, exactly.
Let's get a clean slate and try to do it because, like you said, I do think you're seeing the flashes with this team. You see potential, and it's just I'm hoping by the end of the season, it's just more consistent with more discipline behind them. Because if we can get to that point at the end of the season, you go into the next season and being okay, we're going to have a little bit more cap space here. How can we, incorporate maybe some more vets? What can we do here to kind of get this team to that next step after this development year? And I'm already looking too far ahead because, we're.
I hear you. Well, it's hard not to, man. It's hard not to when we're sitting here at 2-3, and you're thinking, the idea of making a playoff run is pretty distant at this point. And I'm not, dismissing the possibility. And I don't think anyone's under any illusions they're going to win the division. But
Yeah.
they could sneak into a wild card spot still.
I still think they
There's
can.
every possibility that happens. But it's got to start Sunday in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I can't handle losing to this team, Camille. I can't handle losing to Sub McCarthy. Can't do it. Cannot do it. All right, Camille. As usual, as always, this has been therapeutic more than anything else, but I really appreciate the time. Where are people going to find you this week? Oh, how about my Bucks? How are they looking in the preseason, huh? Not too shabby.
Little shaky at times, but hey, preseason.
They're just starting to gel. Just starting to gel.
This isn't a video game. When you insert new people, it takes a while for chemistry to develop, and we still haven't seen the full team. So
see, that's what I'm saying.
Next week it all gets real.
There you go. And I can't wait to check out your stuff, both at Technical Foul and, of course, Locked On Bucks. Camille, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
For sure.